Where with the neuromuscular reeducation component, any of our athletes who use repetitive motions, we can really help optimize those repetitive motions by tapping into the neurological signal while doing their sport-specific exercises. So that's a whole nother end that kind of gives the athletes a different edge.
I'm Garrett Salpeter, and I believe that the most powerful and transformative way to help people recover from pain and injury, heal from trauma, and reach their highest levels of fitness and performance is to focus on the nervous system. In this podcast, we'll share knowledge from the frontiers of neuroscience and inspirational stories of how applying that knowledge has empowered people from all walks of life to heal, adapt, and grow. Welcome to this episode of the Undercurrent podcast. I am very excited to welcome Dawn Nasta. We are here in person. She's in Austin this weekend from the Phoenix area, helping us with our hypertrophy course. So we have a brand new, really exciting module in our continuing education library here that we're filming this weekend. It's going great. And I'm excited that we get to take this little break from filming to, I guess, do some more filming to record a podcast. So a little bit on Dawn. Dawn has a very interesting and diverse background. She's been working for the last decade plus in a very interesting high-end medical facility there in the Phoenix area, where they use a lot of very advanced modalities combined with a functional medicine approach. So she's been doing everything from colon hydrotherapy and massage therapy to some of these other more advanced modalities. And now for the last couple of years, we've been working together. She's been using the newbie in some really interesting ways. So we will get to dive into your story, hear some of your experiences. But first, welcome.
Thank you. I'm really, really grateful to be here. I mean, NeuFit has been such a huge contribution to my life overall, both personally and professionally. I love the culture of the company. I love the energy. It's so appropriate that it's energy focused. And I mean, I'm so grateful to have such a great team and such a great device as part of my life and part of my practices.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. This weekend has been fabulous.
It has been. I've learned a lot from you, a lot from Brad. It's nice to collaborate, exchange some of that information, and work on wonderful things coming in the future.
Your own career, because along the way, you got into bodybuilding, competed in bodybuilding for several years, and then started having some health challenges. And that was one of the catalysts for us connecting. So can you share a little bit of your experience in that bodybuilding realm and some of those challenges you faced?
Absolutely. So when I first started out in competing, it was really to help get comfortable in my own skin. And it was more of a mental exercise. And then through my first competitions, I really enjoyed it. But during my first prep, I only utilized Bikram yoga as part of my process. So at about 16 weeks out, I started doing Bikram yoga once a day. And at about 8 weeks out, I started doing Bikram yoga twice a day. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew I had some friends who were bodybuilders and Olympians and clients who were coming in. And I thought it would be exciting to kind of challenge myself. Well, I won my shows. And so then I was qualified for nationals. And I had no idea what I was doing. I hadn't worked with a coach. So I decided to look and see what the girls looked like and started to work out. Well, I have a naturally high testosterone level. I actually have PCOS, which can give you an abnormally high testosterone level. So I put
on... What is that acronym for our listeners?
It's actually Polycystic ovary syndrome. So basically you develop cysts on your ovaries instead of ovulation at times. And it can just cause a little bit of a hormonal imbalance. Okay. So as soon as I started to really get underweight, I started to develop muscle pretty quickly. So when I went to nationals, the feedback that I got was that I was just too muscular for bikini and maybe I should move up to the next division, which is figure. So I did that. And I competed in that division for about a year. And again, they told me I should probably consider going to the next division, which is physique, and it's more muscular. And I really, really, really fell in love with that division. It really fit me. There's more of a routine. You get to show more body parts. It's just a different division. And each one has their own positive and, their positive benefits according to that. But Then that division and some of the standards and criteria started to change. So they wanted me to be more muscular. So that was a challenge for me naturally. And so I had to really, really try to exercise more so, or utilize some of my recovery capabilities more so. Otherwise, just the other side of it is that there is a nature of trying to supplement in ways that, I was very conscientious not to, because I didn't want there to be any irreversible side effects. So the way that I could overcome that is really being very, very diligent about my exercise and training and intensity level, as well as my nutrition and trying to recover. And during that process, I just had trained too hard because I knew that I had tried to get somewhere. I had a certain goal in mind. But during that process, I had really breached that line of healthy fitness and a sacrificial sport. And that is one thing that I'm very fortunate with having Dr. Drobot as my mentor at the Biomed Center, that he really impressed upon me. Like, you have to recognize as an athlete that there's a very specific boundary. And at some point, it's health and fitness. And then you get to a place where it's a sacrificial sport. And the more that you're sacrificing for that sport, the more you need to focus on performance and recovery. Because otherwise, there are going to be long-term consequences. Longevity is not going to happen. Injuries are going to be more prone.
And so he was trying to coach you to stay as close to that, healthier side as possible, but eventually things kind of crossed over, right?
And I'm very fortunate because even from the beginning, I monitored. I'm kind of a nerd in that sense, and I love it. I love research. I love data. I'm probably not a very great client on the bodybuilding side because I want to know why. Why am I doing this? It's my body. I have to live in it. I have to kind of deal with the consequences, so I want to know what's happening. So there's a lot of whys. But in that process, I decided I want to work with a doctor. I want somebody to look at my levels. I want to know how my body is responding. So I was very disciplined in that respect, and I did blood work every 4 to 6 months. So when I started noticing my metabolism was not functioning as well as it once was, and I was not sleeping well, my digestion wasn't operating as well as it had been, and being a colon hydrotherapist, I was very astute to what that was. And I talked to Drobot, and I was 3 weeks out from a show. And he said, you need to run your hormones. And I said, I don't have time. Nothing's going to happen between now and 3 weeks. And he's like, well, you probably should. And I didn't. And when I got done and we did run my hormones, we could really see what had started to happen. And he showed me. He said, I want you to see right here. This is exactly what professional athletes have happen when they've breached that point of it being a health and fitness perspective and now become a sacrificial sport. At that point, I owe a large amount to him, me coming into contact with NeuFit, because our goal was, how do I find a way to either take some of the pressure off my nervous system or have to do something more biochemical, because his thought was, and his explanation and the research he showed me was that my nervous system had just been so sympathetic for so long that I wasn't quite able to get into a space of recovery or even proper digestion. And, we talk a lot about nutrition, but nutrition is nothing if there isn't assimilation of those nutrients and being able to utilize them effectively. And if your nervous system is at its brink and it can't function, then it's not giving the energy necessary to digest those foods. It's been an interesting experience in that effect.
Yes, I think there's a lot of wisdom there, and thank goodness that you were so diligent about keeping track of your own metrics, paying attention to how you were responding, and you're in this wonderful facility and have a great mentor, and colleague looking after you and helping to coach. Because I know sometimes it's hard for us to do those things for ourselves. Sometimes we need to have that outside perspective.
Absolutely.
So you became a patient, or have been all along, and also became a patient of the Biomed Center. Can you tell us a little more about the types of modalities and the types of work that you do there at the Biomed Center?
So the Biomed Center is the most comprehensive biomedicine center outside of Europe.
And so what is biomed, I mean, we think medicine always deals with biology. What does that mean, biomed? Before we get into it, just like what's in the name?
So within biological medicine, we're really trying to optimize the body's biological functions. And so that's predominantly where that name comes from. Through that, we look at the body as a whole and we help the body function optimally as a whole. So that's where there's a very functional medicine benefit. However, we do focus strongly on diagnostics, and a lot of those diagnostics are directly related to the nervous system. So that's one thing that is very synergistic between NeuFit and the Biomedicine Center as a whole, is it's really functioning on how does your body's energy and nervous system work, and how is that directly correlating to the health of the other organs and systems.
Okay, so a very integrative, holistic
correct
approach is a big part of it there.
Correct. And the Biomedicine Center was founded by Dr. Dixon Tom and Dr. Jeff Drobot, and both have very elaborate experiences and educations. However, they also have very different focuses and functions. Dr. Drobot and Dr. Tom just had very different focuses. Dr. Tom has been in the field forever, and he educates a lot on fundamentals and chronic illness. And along the way, Dr. Drobot, with his experience within athletes and different athletic organizations and, professional teams, he really delved into the performance and the recovery. And for me, it was optimal because I really love to help people and help them feel better. However, as an empath, I have to be cognizant because I don't constantly want to be around people who are ill and chronically ill either, because that has a negative effect on me. So for me, it's perfect because, and again, NeuFit just kind of pulls that all together. I can work with people who need improvement, who are in pain, who have injury. But then again, once we get them to that place, it's not like we stop there. We can continue to improve and optimize and just help enhance their overall performance and quality of life. So
that's awesome. And so I got to visit, I've been to the Biomed Center, and I was really impressed with all the different modalities, the different light therapies, other, I guess what we would call energetic medicines and other therapies. And it's cool. So you're able to play to the chronically ill people, for whom some of these new, more in-depth treatments might be their last hope. And then the professional athletes, like I know you work with the Cardinals, the Coyotes, the NFL, NHL team there in Phoenix. So it's a cool blend. And can you talk about, I know you've been using the Newbie in two places there, and then also in the kind of satellite office down at Pro Physiques. And so we'll talk about both of those. First, how have you been implementing it within the Biomed Center? What are some of the main ways that you've been able to use it in that setting?
So one thing that fits very well within that business model is the master reset protocol. And as you know, we've begun some preliminary biometric measurements on it, really showing the efficacy. And, if you can get the body and the nervous system into homeostasis, then it is capable of doing all of its responsibilities and jobs. And that's one thing that Drobot has focused on and educated a lot of his patients and even myself on over the years is, when we deal with a lot of these autoimmune illnesses, a lot of it is relative to what he calls chronic immune dysfunction relative to nervous system imbalance, right? So if you are operating at 100% all the time and you don't know how, and I am guilty of that, where I'm super type A. So physiologically, I didn't know how to calm down. And so we do have a few modalities there. We have the Zone, which helps do that. And we do have something called, it's a vibroacoustic bed called the sound bed. But what we have found with what the Master Reset can do is absolutely incredible. So that's one way. Just
so everyone knows, if you don't have your own Newbie yet, the Master Reset is our protocol where we're stimulating the vagus nerve, sending a fairly mild, fairly gentle, but still significant current through the body to increase parasympathetic nervous system function, help the body get out of the fight or flight state more into that rest and digest state. So that's the master reset. So please continue.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that that's one thing, just as a culture and as, as society, we keep thinking we have to do more. And again, something I'm incredibly guilty of. But the truth is our body needs to get into that space of parasympathetic nature and homeostasis in order for it to, digest our foods and help us sleep and help our body heal and repair. And then on the other end, we have it where the Biomedicine Center actually has a huge focus, right, on overall health and if necessary, utilizing pharmaceuticals, but pharmaceuticals more as a secondary course of action. So this is great for people who have pain and injury for an extensive period of time. As the colon hydrotherapist, I get exposed to a lot of people who are on Oxycontins or pain medications, and this really helps alleviate some of those pain symptoms so they don't have to utilize the pain medications as much, which then eliminates the issues of them being extremely constipated and that affecting their whole body. So the master reset and then again, any of the pain management protocols are extremely helpful. And then we have the athletic side there, which is something that's again, completely different, where with the neuromuscular reeducation component, any of our athletes who use repetitive motions, we can really help optimize those repetitive motions by tapping into the neurological signal while doing their sport-specific exercises. So that's a whole nother end that kind of gives athletes a different edge.
If you're ready to supercharge your practice, listen to this. Garrett and Team NeuFit have just released a new online course entitled Introduction to the NeuFit Method. In this detailed 8-hour course, you'll gain mastery of the fundamental techniques in our practice, including muscle testing and activations, nerve glides, and joint articulations. You'll also get introduced to our patented direct current stimulation device, the Newbie, an incredible machine that's empowered professionals just like you to help their patients heal, adapt, and grow faster than they ever thought possible. To learn more, go to www.neu.fit/learn. And now back to the show.
That's awesome. I love that. And I saw where you had built out that room. There's more traditional treatment exam rooms and rooms with these modalities, then almost like a double or triple size treatment room, but with some exercise equipment and the Newbie and stuff in there. So see that it's just cool to see that truly all in one place type of arrangement there. So it was really cool.
It's amazing. And, and that's one thing, again, that it is in alignment with like who NeuFit is as a company and who you are as a person. If we all collaborate, we can all come together and we can all share those different strengths, like together exponentially. We can just do so much more than trying to do it on our own. So it feels good. And it's not fun to do it alone.
And thankfully, there's a happy ending to this chapter of the story because you were able to come some of your own health and hormonal challenges.
Yes.
Now get back into more consistently in that recovery state, right? So
Absolutely. And which is great, which is kind of a good segue. So even though that I'm not able to, or I've chosen at this point to not compete, and again, I'm 42 years old, so it's slightly different. I'm at that space as well where I want to be a little more cognizant of where my hormones are anyhow. And, I really love what's happening with NeuFit and all the positive things on the horizon. So, in order to have energy for that, I don't want to have to go into a state of depletion with nutrients as well. So I was able, through some of my network and friends to be able to still put that in place with those types of athletes and overcome a lot of challenges and really see some of my favorite people like utilize it to their benefit and it make a huge impact on their lives. So that's really exciting.
And that plays into like you said, segues beautifully into the satellite location, office that you have at Pro Physiques, also there in the Phoenix, in the Scottsdale area.
Yes.
And so you've been working a lot with the bodybuilding population. That's the topic of the continuing education course we're filming here in Austin this weekend. Training for hypertrophy, helping them build muscles, helping these is it mostly or all female competitors, this team that you're working with?
It's probably 80% females.
Okay.
So it's a high population of females.
So helping mostly female competitors, certainly with hypertrophy, helping them build muscle, sometimes whole body, sometimes in areas where they may perceive that they're lagging and need to build up certain areas. And then also working on those same recovery components so you can help them, they can have that foundation of health. So that which will support them in having success in their competitions, in their journey. So can you speak to how you've been implementing the newbie there with the Pro Physiques team and with those bodybuilding athletes?
Yes, absolutely. And I will say that whereas the original intention was for Pro Physiques to be somewhat of a satellite office with the nature of the world and the things that have happened and the things that have changed, it's actually become at least 50% or more of my focus just because of the because of the significant results we can get by including the NeuFit in protocols and systems that we've already done.
So, taking off like a rocket ship.
It really has. And, again, I'm personally a big believer in, I don't believe in accidents. I think, as long as we're focused on something that's larger than ourselves and more positive, that we kind of attract those things into our lives. And as soon as I got back from the training, I immediately thought of Whitney Jones. And Whitney Jones is by far the one female in the bodybuilding community that I have looked up to and that I will always look up to, who I believe she made such a significant impact on the sport. I've never seen one woman support and build so many other women, and it's not exclusive to women, in my life. So I knew that she, over time, has had to try to overcome some of her injuries by being a fitness competitor. She not only has the demands of the training and the nutrition, but she has a whole entire fitness routine. So that means she's doing skills, 2, 3, 4 days a week as well to develop these fitness routines. On top of that, she runs a gym. She has a whole, a line of attire, and then she choreographs and teaches and trains all of these upcoming fitness competitors as well. So as soon as I was able to conceptualize what the NeuFit could actually do, I reached out to Whitney and I said, hey, I think this could really help you. And she was only a few weeks out from a very big competition from the Arnold. And she said, you know what? Why don't we take a few seconds and think about this? I'm going to talk to Damien. I don't know if he's going to go for it. It's really close to the Arnold. And Damien Segovia is the Pro Physiques coach, one of the Pro Physiques coaches. And he and Whitney are the founders of Pro Physiques. And he is, an amazing coach as well. And Whitney is a coach and handles a lot of the fitness and bikini. And then Damien, on the other hand, does, a myriad of the divisions as well. But he is Whitney's coach, in fact. So she reached out to him, and I think he really wanted to wait for a period of time. And whether it was unfortunate timing or fortunately for me, she actually went through a labrum tear, and she was only a short period of time out from defending her title at Olympia.
It was labrum in her shoulder.
Yes. And she couldn't train. And so they were kind of in dire straits, and Damien said, okay, well, let's try to see what happens. And so she came in, we were able to do some rehab. We were able to do some recovery. We could get her to train on it. And so we thought that she had done well. But as soon as she had tried to do another shoulder day on her own without the device, that pain signal and that neurological signal was so long, it was so strong, it just guarded her right away. And so at that point, we recognized the only way we were going to be able to complete this training for Olympia was to specifically train her on the NeuFit for her shoulders at all times. So we did. And by doing that, Damien is an amazing coach. It's very funny. He's somebody I respect greatly. He's very behind the scenes, so he's not somebody who's out on social media a lot or brags about himself very much, but he goes very much out of his way to seek out the very best professionals and team to give his athletes the very best and take as much stress off of their plate as he can. And so once he could see that I had proven, and he makes you kind of prove yourself, which I don't think is a negative thing. But once he saw that that was proven, he then started to allow me to work with more and more of his athletes. And as that time went on, he's trusted me more. And last year, he actually allowed me to work on 11 of his Olympians as we went into Olympia, one of them being 4-time Miss Figure Olympia, Sid, one being
what's her name?
Sid Gillen, and then Whitney. And we have Alex and Sally, who's fitness. So we have a whole team of amazing Olympians. And I'm leaving people out, so I apologize for that. I just didn't want to carry on and on about that. But it's been extraordinary. And in that gym specifically, I have with the combination of that gym and the NeuFit, it's just the results that I can provide are amazing. It's designed for shoulders and for glutes and overall body sculpting for females. And once you tap into the neurological signal and you can really enhance the capability and the efficacy of the workouts, it's a no-brainer. So the results we're getting are incredible.
That's awesome. So in terms of the results you're getting, we've already talked some in this conversation about recovery, and we know you're also implementing that with the pro physiques athletes to help them stay healthy and keep up with the rigors of training and what they have to put themselves through. We talked about the rehabilitative component, and you mentioned, with Whitney, helping her work through that shoulder labrum injury, just in several ways to not only help her heal and recover, but be able to continue training to create enough functional load on her shoulders so that she could, participate in the Olympia. When I know it's interesting,
and win.
She said she couldn't
win that year,
a second in a row.
Yes,
yeah. And she, I know she couldn't even lift a 5-pound dumbbell, and all of a sudden you got her lifting that. So there's a rehabilitative. And then let's talk again, since that's the theme of this weekend. Talk a little bit, please, about an example or two of the hypertrophy or muscle building component, about how when you use that neuromuscular reeducation to train muscles, to recruit more muscle fibers, to get more load on the muscle, how that creates this opportunity for hypertrophy. Can you share, maybe an example or two of that just to kind of round things out?
Absolutely. So in training or in life, right? We're very fortunate. Our bodies are designed to protect us. And when our bodies start to get, imbalanced, certain things want to do the job for those things that are supposed to do the job. So in theory, it's all protective in our benefit. However, in training, there are many times that we start to compensate with muscles that we don't actually intend to. A lot of the things are just, poor repetitive movements, like sleeping or sitting too much or standing the wrong way too much, or, a lot of kyphotic nature, especially I see that a lot with healthcare workers, they're having to lean forward a lot, or when we're on our phones a lot. So with the neuromuscular reeducation, we're actually able to help remedy those muscles that are trying to do the job and that are overworked for the muscles that we're trying to isolate. So, for example, like with shoulders and the combination of therapies utilizing the NeuFit, we're really able to, really round out the shoulders, help with asymmetries. A lot of people with frozen shoulder who are not really able to build or get that rotation back are able to do so because we're able to diffuse those muscles through the neuromuscular reeducation that have been overcompensating. And then with the different frequency and hypertrophy patterns, elicit different muscle fibers to fire. And obviously, as you know, but it's important for everybody else to know, we're really able to isolate and to contract the muscle much more intensely and much more effectively than we are with our own mental capabilities. And so a lot of the time what it is we just don't know what we don't know. And what we think is right is actually what's comfortable. And it's kind of, again, one of those theories that we kind of hear repetitively in life or even in bodybuilding that, nothing happens in that comfort zone. So it's really optimal to be able to show people, because if you know what you don't want or you don't want to do, that's not really as helpful as actually knowing what you do want to do or what you can be doing or what you should be doing. So that's a huge benefit. When you're not able to know that your glute is firing and you can't tell the difference because you sit so much and you don't know if it's your QL and your glute because of the proximity, I mean, it's very hard to conceptualize that. So that's one of the huge benefits and one of the biggest benefits that I've seen, and it's contributed to a huge amount of the results, is just helping people get that mind-body connection. Because once you can feel that sensation, once you know this is what a lateral raise should feel like a few times, and combined with the actual neurological connection that the NeuFit can provide, it really helps to just get those results that you need much better. So that's one of the main ways. And then on the other end, there's the rehab side. And, as we know, things get tight, whether it's coming in here in the bodybuilding world, we do a lot of squeezes back world. Things seem to kind of get congested. We can really go through with that 500 pulses per second and allow things to relax. And that's one of the things that really sets this apart from anything, out there, is that combination of, that performance and that recovery capability.
That's awesome. That was one of the things that, you were showing me several of these before and after photos usually in one session. I mean, you've shown, you'll see an athlete and the structure of their body will look like it's transformed. It looks like a many weeks before and after, but it's one session because you've been able to do just that, to release certain muscles that were, say, holding the scapula back, retracted. And so they're able to protract, widen out, and the athlete's entire back looks significantly wider. It looks like they've put on a lot of muscle, but really they're just holding themselves in a better position,
right?
More efficient position. So it was so cool to see all those examples you showed. If people listening to this want to see some of your work, follow the work you're doing with the Pro Physiques athletes, what's the best way to find you online?
You can actually find me at Intrigue Health, or you can actually find me at the Pro Physiques. They have a lot of the information that I work specifically with their athletes as well. And then on Intrigue Health, I try to post both a combination of the performance and then also some of the other functional medicine capabilities that we can do.
Intrigue, just with the letter N.
Correct.
Intrigue with no I, just Intrigue Health, and it's at Intrigue Health on Instagram or Facebook.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then at Pro Physiques also on Instagram.
It's at the Pro Physiques.
At the Pro Physique. Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thank you for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm really, really excited between this podcast and our course to share with the world the wonderful work that you're doing. And I'm super grateful to you for just being such a wonderful representative of this movement that we're working to create here. And it's because of working with such wonderful people like you that we're able to really make an impact and change the world.
Oh, thank you. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone who tuned in for listening. This is another episode of the Undercurrent Podcast. Current Podcast.
Thank you so much for listening to the Undercurrent Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date as we release future episodes.